Hi there, it's Kevin with RogueDeckBuilder.com, here with a little bit of a psychology lesson, I guess you'd call it. I think I'd switch things up here. I might start another YouTube channel to talk more about this, because I know a lot of you are just here for the magic, and that is it. And when I start to ramble on other topics, you may be a little bit annoyed. But anyway, I thought I'd throw this out here because I am a psychology major. I did get a degree in psychology, and one of my focuses was personality theory. I really like personality theory. Personality theory taught me a lot about myself, and it was there for me at a hard time in my life when I was trying to figure out exactly what went wrong with a relationship, and I started actually studying personality disorders because my ex had a psychological disorder called borderline personality disorder. And when you start Googling that sort of thing and start researching about personality disorders, the Myers-Briggs personality type indicator started coming up, some discussion with actually what is personality type and what is a personality disorder. And I got to learn about that. And it led me to MBTI. And I basically fell in love with MBTI because it offers you it's kind of like a guidebook to who you are. There's 16 different personality types. They are broken down with 4 different letters, with extrovert versus introvert, intuitive versus sensing, feeling versus thinking, and perceiving versus judging. And I'll talk more about those in a bit. But the MBTI is made to help you with, it was first developed, I think, for career paths. Like me personally, when I was younger, I didn't have any clue what I wanted to be when I grew up. I still don't have any clue, starting to finally grind out those details. But the first thing I wanted to do was I wanted to be a lawyer. Because one of the things that with a young ENFP is you feel like everyone is controlling you and you hate to be controlled. And so what profession is better than a lawyer? I mean, you are the law. You at least can manipulate the law and protect yourself. And that's what it was for me as a young ENFP, is really protecting myself. I didn't want anyone else to be able to be over me, and that was my goal in life. But if I would have learned about the MBTI back then, I would have learned that being a lawyer would have been like the most absolutely horrible career for an ENFP. So it started with career building, and it also is good in relationships with compatibility. But the thing that was so I guess beautiful, magical, I guess, about MBTI is it has really saved a lot of relationships in my life, as I have been able to figure out other people's personality types and then be able to understand them better. For example, my dad is an ISTJ, and a lot of my family are J personalities or SJ personalities. And if you don't know where they're coming from, SJs, particularly as an NF, can really rub you the wrong way. But if you start to see them in their functions and how they function as a person, you don't have to take their, I don't want to call it assaults, but the way they act as threatening or as insulting a lot of the times. That's just how they are. That's how they operate as especially SJs. They are very duty driven, so they usually abide by the laws, abide by the social norms, and they kind of demand that on other people. To not abide by those is almost offensive to them. So as an ENFP, where that is completely opposite, where self-expression and variety and being an independent person can really butt heads with an SJ. So learning about how they function and learning about how you function and learning how to kind of act harmoniously with another person that is so different from you can really save relationships, and it really has saved a number of relationships in my life. Again, the personality types, people sometimes have the wrong idea about MBTI. They think it's an end-all, which what I mean by end-all is that your personality type defines your personality, and that's not really. I like to kind of think of Myers-Briggs as how there's a body type, like ectomorph, endomorph. As different body types are good for different activities, it's kind of the same way. Different body types have like different bone density and different muscle structure and things like that. And you can think about personality type in the same way. Certain personalities have edges or weaknesses over other personality types. You're just naturally better at certain things, and it doesn't define, like, your body type doesn't define if you're ultimately an athlete, if you're ultimately going to succeed in athletics, or what other activities you're going to pursue with your body. The same thing with personality type. It's not going to 100% determine who you are as a person. Your personality is made up by experiences. It's made up by your upbringing. It's made up by decisions, choices. It's more than just your MBTI type. So I get along with ENFPs very well because we understand each other at a kind of core personality level, but we are still very different. I have been involved in a lot of ENFP like meetups and social sites and things like that. You can call me a nerd. I know I'm very nerdy when it comes to personality type. But anyway, let's rear this back into how this relates to Magic the Gathering. As a lot of you know, I chose the name Rogue Deck Builder, and you can see how my personality is just so entwined in the decisions that I've made with Magic the Gathering. So first of all, there's a nice little test. This is from typefinder.com. It's a very, very quick test. That's why I chose it. It's free for the time being as they're still testing it. But it's only I think it's only 32 questions. The questions are pretty good. They're definitely, you can test wrong, especially with these. What the bad thing about Myers-Briggs type indicators is a lot of times they just test letters against each other when you really should be testing what's called cognitive functions against each other, and I'll talk more about that as time goes on. This is going to be the basics of MBTI. Basically, what this is going to do is it's going to give you a little guidebook of what you most likely are going to be. So it's going to break it down into letters, and again, it's extroversion versus introversion, intuition versus sensing, feeling versus thinking, and perceiving versus judging. And again, this isn't all end-alls. Everyone is both extroverted and introverted, intuitive and sensing, feeling and thinking, and perceiving and judging. But these are usually with these, it's your stronger of the suit is how these letters breaks it down. So it's got these nice little tabs here as well. After you answer the 32 questions, it will come up with a lettering. And again, this could be wrong, as I tested an ENTP a lot, and I've also tested as an INFP quite frequently. But when I learned the cognitive functions, I'm 100% an ENFP. And again, you can see that in my video. So let's just go with that. So first thing with the letter is extroversion. And this is your energy style. I love the way how this website is worded, because you get your energy by externally engaging with your environment. And so people that are extroverts tend to be enthusiastic, gregarious, and you can see that in my the way I talk and ramble, sociable and expressive. And those, if I were to describe myself, that definitely would describe myself. One of the things with extroverts is a lot of us are closet extroverts, is what I like to call it. When I was younger, I was extremely shy, and that isn't introverted. Shy is not introverted. I was shy, but I had this closet extroversion. I wanted to be able to be sociable. I wanted to interact with everybody. I wanted to get my ideas out, but I was too afraid to do so. And that's another thing with MBTI. It really shows you how you should be expressing yourself, how you really should be embracing who you are if you're going to get the most out of life. Because I did grow up with a condition called social anxiety disorder, where I didn't want, and that's like murder for a ENFP, where you're too afraid to express yourself. And deep down, that's all you want to do is express. And so if I would have learned about MBTI a lot earlier, I could have sought help a lot earlier and got over that condition of social anxiety disorder. This is kind of crazy. If my 14-year-old self could see that I run a YouTube channel, expose myself to the big bad internet, he probably would have been very overwhelmed by that idea. At times in my life, I was too afraid to. One of the things where I finally realized that I needed to seek help, seek a little bit of therapy for my social anxiety disorder, is I was meeting a friend in the city over, and I had to get on a bus to do so. I didn't have a car at the time. I was a freshman in college, and I checked out the bus schedule and had that all ready, and went to the bus stop, and the bus pulled up, and I froze. And I didn't freeze because I didn't get on that bus because I was afraid of being around people. I didn't get on that bus because I was, terrified that the bus might catch on fire and we'll die. No, that wasn't the fear. The fear was I didn't know when to pay. Did I pay when I got on the bus, or did I pay when I got off the bus? And I didn't I didn't want to look like a total idiot by asking. I mean, I was so terrified of that social interaction, of being embarrassed or being not completely in control, I guess, that I did not get on that bus because I didn't know when to pay. And anyway, so that was a little bit of a side story, but growing up with social anxiety disorder was very, very tough as an ENFP, like I said, when I wanted to express, when I wanted to be sociable. And now I'm glad I finally embraced that, and the YouTube channel has really been a nice little outlet for my extroversion. I've been able to engage with you, my fans, and everyone else in the Magic Gathering community. I've been able to, express my enthusiasm for Magic, And it is a nice little expressive outlet for my rogue decks. And that's one of the reasons you'll see that in my rogue decks is expression is a huge part of how I build my decks. That's why I tend to like rogue decks over net decks, is I feel that the decks do represent me as a person and my creativity, and that is why I like to branch out and find new, fresh ideas. So yeah, so it's I'll talk to your energy style. So my energy style is extroversion. So it's how I manage my energy. I'm energized by engaging with other people. Introverts are usually drained by engaging. They talk about it like having a certain amount of extroverted dollars per day that you can spend. And so they're very particular of how they spend their extroverted pursuits, I guess. One of my best friends is an ISTJ. He's considered an introvert, but he's more sociable than I am. I guess he goes to more parties and more social activities than I actually do, but that drains him. It doesn't energize him. He can only, he has to build up his introverted time. He has to go home and do his hobbies and whatnot, be alone and kind of contemplate about his day so he can build up his extroverted energy again and actually go out and use it at parties and social activities. I'm the opposite. I have to build up my extroverted activities before I can come back and do my YouTube channel or study or something. I can't study. I can't come home and study for a class until I've been to a party, until I've got that out of the way. So it's kind of opposite there of which drains you and which energizes you. Introverted pursuits are very important to me as an ENFP. I need my solitude. I need my time to think, but I have to always build up if they locked me into a room without any other person for a couple of days, I would go nuts because I need that social interaction. So extroverts are energized by engaging with other people, approach the world enthusiastically, and want to experience the excitement of life. Yep, that is definitely me. And as I age, I'm really blossoming into my extroversion. Like I said, when I was younger, I was shy and more introverted, but that wasn't truly who I wanted to be. It didn't energize me. So I enjoy interacting with people, being in busy surroundings, engaging, expressing thoughts and feelings, being noticed by others. Yeah, I'm an attention whore. I admit that. And stimulation and activity. All right, so we go on to intuition, and this is probably my most important function. ENFPs leave it to the cognitive function called extroverted intuition. And that is all about ideas, possibilities, and connections. And in Magic the Gathering, that's exactly what I try to look for in a deck. Ideas, possibilities, connections. I take one card and branch out. Well, this card could work with this card, and can work with this card, and can work with this card. And if you see me build my decks, that's how it starts. I start finding all these connections, and then I have to weed through all the things that don't work. So it's kind of top-down thinking. I start out with a ton of ideas and try to funnel it into a better idea, and that's exactly how I do it with the decks on Magic the Gathering. So anyway, so your cognitive style, that's your thinking style basically, is being creative, imaginative, unconventional, and forward thinking. So I like, again, you can see that with rogue decks. That word stands out big time, unconventional. So that's one of the reasons why I pursue kind of my own decks. So they're unconventional, they're not traditional, they're not net decks. And then imaginative and creative. I always like to look for synergistic and creative and combinations and think big. And so your cognitive style is intuition in contrast with sensing. This dimension describes how you process information. Intuitives process information in the abstract and imaginative way. They focus on ideas, concepts that cannot be directly observed. So if you find it a bit hard to follow my thinking process, this may be why. Intuitives, especially extroverted intuitives like myself, are kind of accused of being unrefined, I guess, being hard to follow, I'm trying to think of the word here that basically describes what I'm trying to say here. Loopy sometimes would be a good one. Eccentric, and it's very hard for non-extrovert intuitives to follow the thinking process because like bam, 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 bam. We go from one thought to the next thought to the next thought to the next thought. And a bunch of you can see that in my ramblings. I can be talking about one thing and then all of a sudden just get distracted by a completely other thought, just a fleeting idea or whatnot, and completely start focusing on that, and then come back to my original thought like 15 minutes later, and then like, how the hell did you get from there to there to there, and all of a sudden tie it back together? That's extroverted intuition in a nutshell. And ENFPs and ENTPs are known for being that. Really hard to follow for other personality types. All right, so you like to focus on observing patterns and connections. There you go. That's exactly what I described in my rogue deck process is I try to look for connections between cards and huge synergistic ideas, interpreting meaning, imagining potential. So again, I look at a card and I'm like, ooh, Agent of Fates has so much potential. It's the coolest card ever. I got to find a way to help Agent of Fates realize its potential. And I do that with people too. I think that the things that give me the greatest satisfaction in life is I have been a personal trainer before, and currently I'm helping a bunch of high schoolers learn how to weightlift properly, and also now with starting my own store and new kids coming in to learn magic, that really gives me the most sense of satisfaction in life, is to help others realize their potential. And that's one of the reasons why I do my YouTube channel, is to help other people realize their potential as a player. And, I'm not the best of player, but I think I can add to the community. I think I can help players become better. If not being entertaining, that's hopefully you get something out of my channel. I know a lot of people call me the biggest noob ever, and I do admit I make some very, very terrible play mistakes, especially while trying to commentate. It's a lot harder to commentate, especially as a rambler like myself, to play and commentate at the same time. So I do make a bunch of play mistakes. Anyway, so I like to be innovative and creative and look for possibilities for the future. So intuition is a huge part, especially being a lead intuitive. This is the function that I, as an ENFP, is my extroverted intuition is the one that I hold in the highest esteem, use the most. Before anything comes into... And before I process anything, before my feeling or my thinking functions become utilized, or my sensing function, I'm using it with a big, overwhelming extroverted intuition. So everything gets filtered through my extroverted intuition before I feel or think about it. So let's go on to feeling. My value style is feeling. I tend to value feeling over thinking, and feelers, especially intuitive feelers, are very passionate. Now, it doesn't say that I don't use logic whatsoever. ENFPs are feeling as our secondary function, and it's introverted feeling. So I'm more worried about how I feel about it, how it's going to affect me, than being harmonious with the group. So that, and I'll get on to cognitive functions later, but as just a basics to MBTI, I'm going to value feeling over thinking. It's not huge in ENFP because our introverted feeling is just barely greater than our extroverted thinking. Lead feelers, a lot of times you'll see this more like profound in their more pronounced, I guess would be the right word, in their personality type. So same with lead thinkers. Lead thinkers are going to give a lot more focus on logic and rational thought than they are going to give it to how they feel about it, or how the group feels about it. So as an ENFP, feeling does matter, but I am very logical still. My extroverted thinking function does demand me to be logical and rational, and extroverted thinking is all about being precise. And, well, not really precise. It's like extroverted thinking versus introverted thinking. Extroverted thinking tries to understand the gist of an idea and the practicalities of an idea. Introverted thinking is really more worried about understanding the entire complete idea. So anyway, and I'll talk about that more as time goes on, but I hope this is just a basic of the MBTI, and you can actually see your own play style in Magic being played out through your personality type. So feelers tend to be empathetic, supportive, warm, passionate. But I guess the passionate would be the greatest thing here as far as Magic the Gathering is concerned, is I'm passionate about my rogue decks. I'm passionate about making the community a greater community, and sharing my ideas with other people. So my value styles is feeling. So feelers value empathy, cooperation, and compassion. They believe that everyone has a responsibility to take care of those around you. If you've seen, in a lot of times, I don't like other people insulting each other on my YouTube channel. And sometimes I am a little bit insulting of other decks, but I don't want to be insulting of other people. Yeah, I'm harsh and critical about spikes sometimes, but it's more friendly. Like, it's friendly jabs. It's not, I don't absolutely hate spikes and never want to be associated with them. I just like to friendly jab, make fun of them a little bit, because they tend to be sensors and thinkers a lot of times, and I'm just jabbing, poking friendly at them. So I don't like it when other people are very... I'm a very competitive person, but I mean, something at my local game store kind of drove me nuts the other day. We had a win-a-box, and one of the players was actually... We had a brand new player that actually entered his tournament in the win-a-box tournament, and so he didn't understand the mechanics very well. And the other player was a little more advanced than him, but he's not to the level... Everyone in my local game store is very new compared to, like, me, that I've been through the pro... I've been on a pro tour. I've competed at the higher level of Magic, and so I understand the mechanics game a little bit better. So anyway, but this newer player was missing triggers left and right and just completely playing the game poorly, if not wrongly. And the other more advanced player was letting him, like actively letting him, and not only that, but kind of exploiting the whole missing triggers and not explaining what his cards do properly. And like he had a Tristani out and he wasn't really realizing that the trigger of the Tristani happening. He was missing those all the time. I understand not letting helping your opponent beat you, but at the same time, at these new players, you have to kind of coach them. Otherwise, they're going to get frustrated and they're going to leave and they're never going to join another tournament, and that's going to hurt you in the long end. I know you want to win that box. I understand that. But at the same time, you really need to help your opponent understand their cards. If you want to have, I mean, what's the point of winning a large tournament if you're not outplaying your opponents because you are just, being extremely creative and extremely intelligent in your own play mistakes? You're only winning the tournament because your opponent is not being able to play his deck at its full potential. I don't know. I get a lot more satisfaction. Like I got a lot more satisfaction beating Yuna Inaga in the draft because I outplayed him. I outplayed him with a lot of my play decisions. I bluffed him. That first game that I beat Yuna Inaga was completely because of bluffs. I did not have a pump spell in my hand. I was able to get in there for the Ida Steeler secrets, and he didn't want to trade with his Bronzebeak dude because he was sure that if he was going to beat me, it was going to be his Bronzebeak getting in for that 4 damage per turn when he's casting creatures and whatnot. But I was able to get in for Steeler secrets because he was dead certain that I had a pump spell in my hand, and I didn't. And I was able to make plays like that. And I was able, if I would have played my cards out of sequence that I did, I would have lost that match. And so that gives me big satisfaction, is being able to outsmart another smart opponent. It's not that I don't go to a tournament and I'm happy because I've got some 12-year-old that doesn't understand how to play the game, or some new player. So as a feeler, that's one of my beefs in Magic, is a lot of these super competitive spikes that not only are willing to let their opponents just make play mistake after play mistake and not help them out explain it, but to try to frustrate their opponent, or try to like this player was playing a little bit fast. Are you done? Is it my turn? Like pressure their opponents into making bad play mistakes, or intimidate their opponents into making bad play mistakes. I am not a fan of that play. I'm not a fan of the Jackie Lee actively letting my opponent not express their stab wound triggers, so 10 turns down the road I can say, I haven't taken any damage from stab wound because you haven't expressed it. Those type of players drive me insane. One of the things that drove me the most insane at my PTQ was my opponent playing Path to Exile, and then me thinking that he's passed priority back to me, and as soon as I start looking through my deck, he casts an Aven Mind Sensor and tries to get me DQ'd by calling a judge saying, I'm searching my entire deck. Those douchebag moves like that, where you try to kind of play the game fast or slow and try to get your opponent on kind of like a tilt, try to frustrate your opponent by kind of these jerk moves, are things that I absolutely hate about Magic. So when I saw this in my local game store, I just thought, well, what goes around comes around. If I ever have to play this guy in a tournament, which is going to happen if I ever decide to participate in one of these tournaments, I am going to make sure he misses every one of his triggers, and so he can feel what it's like to, because I'm kind of like, my play level is comparable to him playing against the new player, because he's a new player compared to me, and there will be definitely aspects of the game that I can basically just be a rules lawyer dick, the way he was kind of being to this new player. So come on, let's play some fair games. If you're gonna win, let's win by skill and tactic, not by frustrating your opponent or being a rules lawyer or trying to make your opponent miss triggers and pressuring your opponent and yada yada yada. So that is probably where my feeling comes in. I know thinkers usually tend to be more ruthless, and it isn't all black and white. Everyone is a feeler and a thinker. It's what you value more, and I definitely value feeling before I value thinking. So my introverted feeling is going to be activated before my extroverted thinking. It's going to be filtered through my feeling before I start to think about it. And anyway, my last letter, we'll move on to it here. So we like to acting out our ideals. So you saw that with what I've just expressed. Engaging their emotions. I am very passionate. If I see one story real quick, I was at this was a tournament a long time ago, and it wasn't even a competitive REL, it was just a pre-release. and my opponent had a wild, or not my opponent, I was watching a game, because this would be the person I'd play in the next round. I think it would be going on to the finals. And this new player had he was so excited because in his sealed pool, he had a wild Beastmaster and a bunch of pump spells. And he had like 4 creatures out, a wild Beastmaster, and he had a giant growth in his hand. So he said, okay, I'm going to attack with my guys, and I'm going to giant growth my wild Beastmaster so I can give all my guys +4/+4 instead of +1/+1. My opponent, or his opponent, who was more advanced, said, nope, doesn't work that way. They all get +1/+1 because you already declared your attackers. And I just thought that was the biggest douchebag move ever. We're not at a competitive RL. We're at a pre-release, for crying out loud. This is where new players, this is sometimes the only tournaments that new players or kitchen table players will actually play in is pre-releases. And here's this guy that is just trying to, and I think that there's no way he's going to, I think we're going to play, this would be playing for 3rd or 4th place, because I think I already had a loss, and the final game was already determined, and it was probably between these two that was actually going to face me, and that's why I was watching the game. So he was already statistically eliminated from winning the entire tournament, and here he is to get maybe an extra 1 or 2 prize packs. He's going to bully another brand new player that his intent was clearly there. He saw the interaction. He saw giant growth, make my guy into 4/4, and it'll pump up the rest of my guys. And just because he did it in the same motion, he's going to be a rules lawyer dick and say this isn't how it happens, and say, nope, you wasted your giant growth to only give him +3/+3 and not the rest of your... If you're going to win games by that douchebaggery, then go for it. And I hope that I hope Magic in the future is going to really put an end to that. First of all, I think that we really could call the judge over, the store manager over, and be like, this isn't a competitive REL. His intent was there. We know what his intent was. He wasn't doing it after blocks were declared or something like that. So that's what he wanted to do. That's how it's going to happen. And it was going to be the difference between winning and losing that matching is whether that guy was going to be a rules lawyering prick or not. And so those are the type of players I absolutely cannot stand, is that take advantage of new players that don't understand completely how triggers work. And this is a great teaching experience. You can say, okay, next time, or okay, if you're ever at a Grand Prix, or if you're ever at a PTQ, or if you're ever at any competitive REL, you need to do things in sequence. But at a pre-release, that's not a time to be a rules lawyering dick. And if I ever judge, I will make those calls against them. And maybe that's not the right way to do that. And I'm not a level 1 judge or not, but we don't even have a level 1 judge at our store, so I'm kind of filling in that role. If I see that happening, I absolutely will say, okay, let's go back and I'm explaining to you when you play this. And I will rule in favor of the new player and teach them. It's a learning experience. It's not a rules lawyering dick experience. And Pro Tour was very, very good because most of the time, even at Pro Tours, most of the players play based upon intent, not based upon rules lawyering. But that is not the same for a Grand Prix. I think Conley Woods wrote an article not too long ago, either for Star City or TCG Player, where he talks about this. And I was like, right on, Conley. That's exactly my experience. Is PTQs are full of jerks, and so are Grand Prix. The Pro Tour, everyone was classy. We were joking the entire time, and this is when everything's on the line for a Pro Tour. Even in the early rounds, everyone was joking, everyone was having fun. You didn't hear judge every 2 seconds. You didn't see people like arguing and fighting. It was a very, very classy time because everyone is at the highest level. You don't need to prove anything when you're at that level. You've already proven yourself by getting there. Some of these GP grinders and PTQ grinders, they have something to prove. They have a stick up their ass, and they have to, relieve themselves. They have to prove that they're a better player, and that means winning a tournament. And they're going to do that at all costs. They'll cheat if they can cheat. Trust me, these players that are rules layers are cheaters deep down. They will cheat if they have the opportunity. Anyway, see, you got to see my passion and feeling right there with this side story. So there I go. My rambling intuition and my feeling leads me to storytelling time. So let's going on to perceiving. How you manage yourself, how you manage your time and yourself as a person is based on your perceiving and judging. Perceivers tend to be more open-minded, spontaneous, adaptable, and I love this word, whimsical. So yeah, so perceivers usually tend to be messy. And you can see that in my deck building. I tend to be a messy deck builder. A lot of times the idea is it's just spontaneous. It's like, okay, I'm going to throw this card and this card and this card. And it doesn't have a rhyme or reason. It's my intuition here. My intuition and sensing is your perceiving style. So anyway, you can see that it doesn't seem to have any logic behind it. It seems to be more abstract, more out of the box, more. Yeah, just like I said, no rhyme or reason at first, and then you try to make something out of it. Perceivers tend to play first, work later. That's one of the big things. We are more interested in fun than stability a lot of times, and we like to keep our options open. So I'm constantly late for things. I'd make a horrible. If you need something done on time, like deadlines, you can see I'll have a bunch of ideas on my YouTube channel, and I'll only get halfway through with the idea before I kind of ditch it and go on to another. There's been so many times I'm like, oh, Rogue Deck of the Month, we're going to do it this month, and then I don't. That is one of the complaints about perceivers, is our options are so open that a lot of times we don't have focus, and especially in ENFP. ENFPs are like the ultimate perceivers. We are the ultimate carefree attitude towards life and flexibility and structure. In fact, being an ENFP, being in structure is like the worst thing ever. Having an authoritative figure over you is just asking for problems with an ENFP. You do not tell an ENFP what to do. You do not try to corner an ENFP. You leave them their options open, and they usually will get things done. If my managers or my bosses will let me do things on my terms, I will reward them. I will get things done. I will find a better way of doing things. But if they want to be like by the book, like, oh, you only have a 30-minute lunch. You took 35 minutes. Trust me, I will then be the worst, laziest employee ever. I will make sure I only get the bare necessities done because you just restricted me. You just said, oh, I probably had a good excuse for taking a 35-minute lunch. I needed it that day, not a 30-minute lunch. That's the type of thing that drives an ENFP nuts. If you rub our backs, we will rub yours. If you allow us the options open and allow us to be a little bit flexible, allow us to go get coffee if we need to get coffee, then we will work 100 times harder than the rest of your employees. But if you're like, nope, you can only get coffee on your break. Nope, you can only sneeze when I tell you to sneeze. Nope, you have to show up on this time. You can't make any excuses. You can't do this. Then ENFPs, oh man, we will find ways to break the rules, bend the rules. And I admit it, we are nightmares for managers to try to manage. Anyway, so that falls on the perceiving. Judges like to have a set schedule, a set routine. It makes them feel comfortable knowing what's going to happen next. Perceivers, a lot of times, and you can see that in play styles. I'd say that judges probably tend to play decks like control decks where they know that they can control the field. Whereas perceivers, I'm thinking we're probably more combo or more like, if I top deck this, more open to the possibility. If I grab this, I'm win the game. If we're not so control freakish, I guess, than you'd say with a judger. Like I said, perceivers like freedom and spontaneity. Spontaneity, how do they say that word? They are carefree attitude towards life and would rather be flexible than structured. You prefer to be free to what your interests you in the moment. That's very key, in the moment. Make the rules as you go. Very, very important. Have freedom, be flexible, brainstorm options, do things when inspiration strikes, and go with the flow of and enjoy surprises. So I tend, as a Johnny, I tend to actually get the most fun out of Magic when I'm just deck building and free to explore. It's not winning a huge tournament that gives me the most enjoyment. So I hope you can see the connections here between my personality type and how I am as a rogue deck builder, and maybe understand me more as a person. I'd like to understand my fans more too. And so I'm going to be doing a poll on Facebook probably or on the website. I want to know, I really think there's going to be a lot of intuitives that watch my channel. I mean, a lot of you sensors. And again, this doesn't determine who you are as a player. And like, I have an appreciation for sensors and judgers. And don't get me wrong, it's not like an us versus them mentality. And there might be a lot of my friends, the vast majority of my friends actually tend to be ISTJs. Every letter different, because we are very complementary of each other. My weaknesses are their strengths, and my strengths are their weaknesses. And so my two best friends are both ISTJs, and we get along splendidly. One of them I always joke about that I'd marry him if he'd let me, except I don't swing that way. I'm not attracted to him that way, but we just work so well. Like we've lived together twice in college, and once when we had the same job, and our strengths and weaknesses complement each other greatly. Like he cooks, he cleans, he would plan vacations for us. All the finances, like all the utilities were in his name, the apartment was in his name. He had all of that, and he liked that. He liked having that control. Like all that was taken care of. He did the grocery shopping, and I just paid him, and he'd cook me food, and he'd clean up after me. It's the greatest thing ever. And he got like that satisfaction just, having another person to, and then of course he probably liked, like, I complimented his personality by being spontaneous. I'd get him out of his shell. I'd make him do things that he wouldn't do. I would, build him up. So those type of personalities, like my ISTJ best friend and me, we get along splendidly because we actually, we have what the other needs. And so eventually, that's actually what I'm going to probably look for in a relationship when I ever do decide to settle down, is someone that actually does compliment me. I love to find another ENFP. There's nothing more attractive in life than an ENFP girl. So if I ever do find one, I'm thinking that will make a great divorce, because I don't know who's going to pay the bills or who's going to be focused in life. But anyway, just a little bit of a tidbit about personality types. So I'm just going to go over this really quickly. ENFPs are curious about others and preoccupied with discovering the deeper meaning in people and ideas. With Magic, I always want to find the next big thing, the deeper connections with the deck. You are authentic. You want authentic experiences and often seek emotional intensity. You prize individuality often and consider the pursuit of happiness to be the highest priority in life, both for yourself and others. Core values are curiosity, self-expression, variety, and adaptability. Can you not see that in the Rogue decks? That is 100% what I'm about. Key motivators are expressing creativity, embracing new experiences. I can't play a deck longer than maybe a week before I want to move on to another deck. Understanding people and providing acceptance and support. I'm easily bored by details and repetitions and seek out situations that offer an escape from the mundane. Magic the Gathering is amazing for that. There's millions and millions of different combinations and with all the different formats, and it distracts me wonderfully. So novelty is attractive to you. You like to have a wide range of interests and friends. Yeah, I'm also a bodybuilder. I'm a Magic player that is a bodybuilder. I guess Travis Wu's kind of that way too. But that's if you look at my activities, I love to fish. Where the hell does that connect in with my nerd pursuits like Magic? I love Magic. I love personality theory and psychology. I love like I said, weightlifting. I love hockey. As I grow older, sports become less and less important to me. But I love parties. And so I have this like huge range of hobbies, and some people are more focused on one hobby and they actually become better at that hobby because they're so laser focused in it. So they have a goal to be just a bodybuilder, and that kind of defines who they are. Where I am all over the place, and sometimes like I've ditched Magic multiple times in my life just to move on to another hobby or interest. And the same thing you can say about any one of my hobbies. Like lately I've been fishing a lot. I could probably ditch fishing for an entire year and not even think about it. So anyway, let's go on to it. Let's see. You're an agile and expressive communicator, using your wit, humor, and mastery of language to create engaging stories. I am such a storyteller, and I apologize to all those that hate my rambling. This video is definitely not for you if you do that. Imaginative and original. You are often strong. You have a strong artistic side. You're drawn to art because of its ability to express innovative ideas and create a deeper understanding of human experience. And so you can go through then all the tabs. This gives you how to communicate, your relationship style, build by building a rapport, focus on relationship, encouraging personal growth, celebrating individual contributions. You can see that with all my contests. I like people to be individuals. I love Rogue decks. Again, Rogue Deck of the Month will be coming soon. And it's got your finding your calling, how you work, your visionary ideal. I'm a visionary idealist, imaginative creator, passionate individualist, inspiring guide. So you can read up all these and it will actually help you. Here's the careers they think that you'd be good at. But this is a bit vague because careers is kind of you could be a lawyer that expresses himself creatively. You could be an ENFP lawyer and that could be a great job. It just didn't work out for me because if anything is about jumping through hoops, it's being a lawyer. You have to dot your I's and cross your T's. And I'm not very good at that. So it's got lists of careers that might work for you. And I love this word, unlocking your potential. That's a phrase that I've always liked. And so it talks about your personal strengths, which is excited by new experiences and never afraid of change. Definitely me. And like adaptability, keep your cool in chaotic situations. I thrive in chaos. Chaos is where pressure a test due in a day, that night, that is where I thrive. Is I don't thrive by setting out my life in order, like I'm gonna have this plan, this plan, this plan. I thrive when the pressure is on, when it's chaotic. Yeah. So anyway, you can read about all of these. Great little website. It's www.typefinder.com. And you can take this personality test and read up on it. So my challenge is for you is to go ahead and take this personality test. I'd just like to see. This is for science. This is for Kevin's nerdgasm, I guess, to see what my fans are. I'm thinking there's going to be a lot of intuitives. We'll see. There could be, like I said, there could be a lot of ISTJs because they like to actually see that angle, that different angle, or ISFPs or whatnot. There could be a lot of sensors. Sensors tend to, at least in American culture, sensors tend to be, I think, like 85%. I'll have to get my statistics again. Of the population, intuitives tend to be a lot more rare than sensors. And same with just NFs in general, idealists in general, the intuitive feelers, especially for males, tend to be extremely rare. So, I mean, I think that there's more ESTJs and ISTJs than there are NFs total, or intuitives total, I think. So especially the American culture is really built around kind of the ESTJ mentality. Work, have all your ducks in a row and plan for the future. And that's kind of ESTJ and ISTJ ideals. And for an NF or an ENFP, sometimes you feel really out of place. You feel like the colored balloon in a crowd full of gray balloons. Anyway, that is my little ramble for the day, my little non-magic video. You should definitely go check this out. Again, I hope you can see how this all plays a role in how I build decks, what I get out of magic. And, you know, it'll help you understand me as a person in my channel, exactly what I'm trying to achieve. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. This is Kevin from RogueDeckBuilder.com. Please let me know your personality type. Come over to Facebook, tell me your personality type. I might give out a prize. Who knows? If you do some in-depth research and tell me, you know, talk about your personality, I might throw in something. So there you go. This is Kevin from RogueDeckBuilder.com. Thanks for watching.